And that's all I'm gonna play now, so they don't take my video down. Okay, coming to you live on the 21st of September. It is Andrea, that's me, at the Quilting Shed, where we are at the height of ridiculousness because the stress level is up here along with the to-do list. I know, we're coping. Barely, but we're coping. So what have we got for you today? It is the 21st day of September, which is why I just played that song. You know what it is. Say good morning if you're here. I know somebody's here. I know somebody's here because the husband just walked back in the door from dropping the kid off on Wednesdays. We picked Wednesdays for our video because back when I started them, it was the only day that I didn't have to drive Emma to class. So it was, hey, on Wednesdays we go nowhere, but we actually go somewhere on Wednesdays now. But the videos continue. Hello, Anne Catherine from Germany. Guten Tag. That's all I know. Maybe 5 other things. I know how to read emails in German that say, I am away from the office on vacation for the rest of August. Willa's here. Hi, Willa. I think I sat 2 rows behind you last night at the guild meeting, but wasn't able to say hi. That is why my voice is a little hoarse. The second guild that I'm in had a meeting last night in person. We were all masked. That was great. But the only thing wrong is we're hoarse because I'm talking behind a mask and there's like 30 some odd people there. So we all have to talk loud because we're all talking because we haven't seen each other in months. So yeah, little hoarse today from our guild meeting. And I am stressing guilds for people who don't know what guilds are. They want a community of quilters to hang out with. And maybe there's not classes near you. I know it's too small for me to have classes here right now. Also, pandemic, I know, a little difficult. So a guild is a great way to get in some community, and nobody's going to judge your work. It's not like a steel workers guild or an electricians guild. You don't have to pass a test to get in. You just have to pay a membership fee of like $25, $30. And they have workshops, they have work days, they have programs every week. You can just kind of tune out during the boring committee stuff if that's what you want to do. But you get to meet people there and talk about things. And last night, one of the things we talked about was, I always mix the 2 of them. There's quilts for Valor, and then there's Victoria quilts. We talked about Victoria quilts that they donate to cancer patients. Basically, anybody who's undergoing some sort of cancer treatment, you can contact Victoria Quilts in Canada, and they will find somebody near you or near the person who's recovering or going through treatment, and just give them a handmade quilt. Just give it to them for comfort, because that's the nice thing to do. That's what quilters do. So join a guild near you because it will be really fun and awesome for you. Speaking of guilds, and Catherine's here and Heidi's here. Hello, Heidi from Iowa. Heidi's a long-term friend. If you've been watching my videos, you already know this. So the other guild that I'm in, the Keswick Guild, which is outside of town, they are having a quilt show this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Friday is 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. Long day is going to be long. Saturday is 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the work actually starts now because tonight, since I am a member of the guild, I am going to drive all the way over to the venue in Bert's Corner and drop off the quilts that I have entered into the show, which I am still prepping. The quilts are finished, but part of the prep work is you have to make sure they're labeled. You have to make sure they have a hanging sleeve or something on the quilt, and you have to like bag them up so that they can keep track of everything when they get there and figure out where they're going to put everything. So I have to drive over across town and drop off the quilts that I have in the show. There's 8 of them that I have in the show, but I'm also going to be a vendor in the show. So tomorrow night, I'm going to take everything out of my store that I'm taking to the show and set it up on Thursday night. So then I can get up on Friday morning and actually go to the show and spend the entire day there. Michelle says there's a Victoria Quilts chapter in Moncton. I think that's the head of the head of the New Brunswick Victoria Quilts, which is great because we had somebody talk about those Victoria quilts last night. I snagged a couple patterns so I can go through some of my darker fabrics because they said they didn't have a lot of quilts for men because I guess some men don't like floral quilts or the women don't think that the men like floral quilts. Anyway, I'm going to make some quilts suitable for those people who just like black and not flowery quilts, black and brown and dark colors. Girls can like those things too. But back to the quilt show because I'm super excited. It is a 50s themed. There might be people dressing up. Those people might include me. You will have to go and see. I know. So yeah, I've got stuff spread out all over my table. I have lists coming out the wazoo for everything that I'm getting ready for the quilt show. But I guess the first thing I was going to tell you about, instead of showing you what I'm taking to the quilt show as a vendor, as a member of the guild, like I just said, I had to label my quilts, and I get asked about labeling quilts all the time. Do you need anything special? What pen do I use? What do I do? How do I label a quilt? Why would I label a quilt? And since this is the first show back in a while, I've been thinking of labeling quilts. And I said to myself, Andrea, because I talk to myself like this, I said, Andrea, darn it, you need to probably label some of your quilts, not just the ones that have gone in quilt shows. Because you got to put some information in here before you forget about it, because God knows, I know you don't remember, and you know you don't remember. And yes, I talk to myself in the third person like that sometimes. So, I said to myself, we are going to go through and start labeling some of my old quilts. And I'm going to get really obsessive about labeling some things because some of the quilts that I've made, if I say for the shop, sometimes I make a quilt just because I want to make it or use up the stash or use up some fabric or it's a particular technique. So I want to put on the label specifically the things I've used in that quilt that I might need to refer to at some point for a trunk show or a learning opportunity or a class or a workshop or something, so that I have this quilt and I don't need to refer to any notes or my shoddy memory. I can just look at the label and be like, okay, yeah, I used a different batting in this and I tried some different threads and there was ruler quilting and then we did this and it was this fabric and it was this technique. So it's all on the label on the back. Sometimes I have really good ideas. So when we got to labeling, this is how I do it because I learned from another lady in the guild, and this is how she likes to do it, and it's very, very handy. You don't need a lot of extras. It's not really all that complicated. The TLDR, the big picture overview, is you take a permanent pen of some sort, you write on some blank fabric, and you sew it to the back of your quilt. That's it. That is the general steps. So I have some nice white fabric. Plain old white cotton fabric. In this case, it is some scrap broadcloth that I had, so it does have a little polyester in it. Don't really care. It's kind of scratchy, ugly, icky feeling fabric, so it's good for a label. Sometimes you can sew them in the corner and stuff, but in this case, I am just sewing the label. This is just a big piece. It can be any size you want as long as it fits what you're going to write on it, and I made mine pretty big. Some people make theirs really small, so they just have their name and the date that they made the quilt. Usually it's just the year. So I could say Andrea Rennick, 2022. Made it in 2022. That's all you need to know. Sometimes you can get a little fancier. Andrea Rennick, made for sweet little grandchild, April 2020. Something like that. So I'm getting really big. And I am, like I said, adding a lot of info, which I would show you, but I happen to move all the quilts out of here. But it's like, for the quilt show, we have to put things like not just our name and when we made it, but if there was a particular pattern that we used. Like one of the quilts I entered was from a pattern by Modern Handcraft. So I made sure to list that on my label on my quilt. So people know I didn't just dream this out of my head. I followed a pattern. Would you like to make this quilt? You can just go look up this pattern from this person who designed the pattern. Give them their money because they earned it. And sometimes in quilt shows too, if somebody else quilted your quilt, you would like write that on your label as well. I am using, I do have a micron pen. You might have seen the micron fine tip permanent pens that you find in art stores and office supplies. Sometimes quilt shops carry these, but they are in no means quilt shop specific. If you are in Fredericton, you can go right down to Endeavors. They have a large selection of micron pens in multiple colors, so you get really fancy. My friend Gail, she actually draws little designs, sometimes like a pretty wreath or a little bow, and she does them in different colors. But you're basically talking about a fine tip marker pen like this. This is a Sharpie pen, one of my favorites. See, it's got that super fine tip like that you would just write on or sketch or draw things or doodle with. But it's permanent ink. It's not going to come out of the fabric. You don't need to treat it any different special kind of way. It's just not going to wash out. It may fade over time, but we're talking like 10, 20, 15 years. Enough time for you to touch it up a little. So what I did to make it easier, this is an optional step. I took my label and I ironed it to a piece of freezer paper. Not wax paper, this is freezer paper. It does have sort of a waxy, smooth side here, and it has a regular paper side. You just iron it on that and it sticks. And the only reason you do this is so it's easier to write your stuff on your label. And you put it down and you write it. The fabric's not moving all over the place. It's not wrinkling and bunching. It just provides a smoother surface for you to accurately write your stuff on your label. And then you just peel it off and sew your label on. So I tried a new technique to sew labels on because I didn't really want to sew it. So I didn't sew any labels on. I ironed them on. I took a piece of really fine interfacing, the fusible stuff. This is the sticky side. And I sewed it to my label, wrong and right sides together, so that when I turned it right side out, the iron-on side of the interfacing was on the outside back of the label. And then I ironed my label on. So, and the edges were all nicely turned under. One of these days I'll do like a more thorough video so you can see how I did it. But you just sew all around the edges, and I had cut a little bit in the interfacing so I could just turn there because this is going to be ironed on the back. So we're not going to sew the whole back together. I'm just going to iron it flat and stuck them on the back. So that's how I did my labels. I don't know if you can see this. I did some pencil lines here so I would know where to sew and know where not to write was more than anything. So I wrote within here and made sure I sewed either on this line or inside there. Not complicated. It just looks like a lot of steps. I'm just breaking it down for you. Labels on your quilt. Because I do have quilts now that I'm looking at. I'm like, when did I make this? Don't remember when I made this. Do you remember what batting I used? Do you remember who we made this quilt for? Because I'm going through pictures now and I'm like, I don't remember that quilt. What happened to that quilt? I was making quilts for a while and selling them. So, see, told you I was hoarse from last night. I got home at 9 p.m., people. It was a late night. How did I ever manage to wind down in time for bed? It was past my bedtime. So that was the quilt labels, the overly long story about quilt labels and how you can do it too. But if you have questions, you can let me know. You can get super fancy with labels, or you can just be like straightforward. Iron it on. Boom. There's your label. Not a fancy pen. There. How's that? Oh, I got a pen. I can cross stuff off my list. I made my list this morning, like 20 minutes before the video started. She's been rough, I tell you. Okay, the other thing that happened. Remember how I said when you run a quilt shop, it's like you live in a time warp. Because right now, immediately, what I have to take care of is fall stuff, and people are looking for Halloween. There's a quilt show this week, and so that's immediately. But what lands in my email inbox and in my actual mailbox is fabric catalogs from suppliers that I order from for next Christmas. This is next Christmas fabric, not stuff that you will see this Christmas, which hasn't happened yet, but these are fabrics for the next holiday season that will be in stores from April to June. So I can order some fabric now and it won't show up until somewhere in April to June, depending on the release yet. This also means they haven't made this yet. They have not made this yet. They've made a few to test the colors and things, but yeah. Next, one of the trends for next Christmas will be apparently Extreme Santa. This comes out in June, next June. You can see that fabric in stores in next June. So I did have a glance through this. I looked at some things and tried to make up my mind. Like, I can't make up my mind right now. And I set it aside and I'm just going to like, there's even Halloween in here for next Halloween. I'm still got this year's Halloween. And that was just the holiday one. And there was the regular book in here. See how thick that is? You can also go to, this is from Northcott. This is public information. You can go to the northcott.com website and click on where it says lookbooks, and you can actually look at a digital version of this book and see what fabrics are coming out next year. And there is all these ones. And that's just from Northcott. Now take every fabric manufacturer that you know of, Northcott, Moda, Andover Fabrics. They've got their own catalogs. They've got just as many. It's a dizzying array of options. How do I pick is what people say. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 23 new lines, not counting the holiday lines that Northcott is releasing between April, May, and June. I'm exhausted. But they're really pretty to look at. So pretty. I've got some good stuff coming. The other thing with the good stuff that comes is sometimes we get to now. I didn't pre-order these things, but I was able to like tag on. See, like the pre-orders come in and the manufacturers make a little bit more for people who might need to order them after the fabric's released. So sometimes I can order stuff that's already been released that maybe I can't get the entire line, but I can call up my rep and say, is there anything left of this? And they can say, we can see if we can find some for you out back. That's a little more complicated than that. But I managed to get my hands on this lovely teacup fabric that came last Friday. I don't think it was here for last Wednesdays. I know I posted a picture as soon as it came in and people were gaga in love over it, just like I am. It's teacups. It's from Tula Pink's Curiouser and Curiouser line that was inspired by Alice in Wonderland and tea parties. And look at these teacups. I know. We weren't even smoking and drinking last night. I'm telling you. We don't do those things at Guild. Those things happen at retreat. That's a joke. So this is $18 a meter. It is Tula Pink. It is so cute. I've already started making a sample of something for you because I have some other things. And I will have some of this in Fat Quarters and the Yardage at the Quilt Show on Friday and Saturday. Don't come to my shop on Friday and Saturday. Come to the Quilt Show because it will totally be worth it. There will be 2 other vendors there too, like I keep saying. Danielle, who runs Chloe's Quilting Cafe, will be there, and it's going to be a blast. I don't know if the place can handle the 2 of us in the same room at the same time. The other thing I wanted to note with the artists like Tula Pink and designers who, when they come out with lines, multiple lines, one of the good things about it is they tend to use similar color palettes or sections of the same color palette so that the lines are fairly interchangeable. Like this yellow bolt is mineral and it's a golden yellow. And it is from her True Colors line, which actually has a lot of basics that you can move and mesh through with the other fabrics. Look how nice that goes together. I know, it's great. So there's that. And then, of course, you can just take a really bold and bright print like Tula Pink, and people are like, I don't know what to do with it. It's so big, it's so bold, it's so bright, but I love it and I bought it. And I tend to match these up with solids. And I got this nice plum magenta and this nice lime green, and they go really, really nice. And I'm going to make you a little thing to show you how. I'll talk about that in a minute. That was cool. So the other things that I got from the Tula Pink, yeah, I showed you that mineral one. The other thing I got from the True Colors line was Fat Quarter bundles in the pink colorway. They call it something else. What do they call it? Flamingo. I know. Flamingo colorway and the peacock colorway. So it's got the purples and teals, and this has got the pinks and a bit of oranges and magentas. I love it. I love it. These are $5 Fat Quarters, and these are 16-piece Fat Quarter bundles. I don't have them priced. I will have them priced, but you could just do a rough 16 times 5, and that's that. It's a lot, but it's totally worth it because my mommy buys me 2 little pink fat quarter bundles for my birthday sometimes, and it's a great indulgence, and I make them last literally forever. I'm still working on a bundle she got me like 3 years ago from Tula Pink's maker line. I really like Tula Pink. And I asked on my personal Facebook, I said, if I personally designed a line of fabric, what would that fabric look like? And many of the answers that people gave were things that immediately reminded me of Tula Pink. Gee, I wonder why I like her stuff so much. Bright, bold colors, lots of pink, lots of fun shapes. I mean, yeah, it's me. And I did get some of her jelly rolls. This is mostly black and white and some pinks. Yeah, and some pinks. This is from her line works. It's a lot of black and white, which you can mix with other things, like I said. And design roll, sorry, from line work. It's great. I think the other vendor that's there on Friday and Saturday, Beverly, I think she has some fat quarters from line works, which is cool. And this is Fairy Flakes in ink. This is a black jelly roll from Tula Pink. It's not just black solids, it's some tone on tones. So it does have some prints like some dots and some swallows and lines and some of her other design bits and stars. And it's really, really pretty. And it's better than just a stark black in the background. And you put black up against some of her other colors, and gorgeous. Gorgeous stuff. That is the kind of quilt that you put in a quilt show because it's awesome. I know. Awesome possum. That's what we call it. Awesome possum. But I did get some other new things. Remember the other week I talked about some By Annie purse parts? I also got in some more By Annie patterns, still unpacking them because, as I said, I am busy, and these are going further down the list, mostly because I don't have a place to hang them up yet. Oh, there we go. You may have noticed the background's different. I moved my video setup slightly. Somebody gave me a suggestion last night, and I will always take suggestions. 90% of the time, you are correct. The other 10% time is not that you're not correct, it's I already know about it and I haven't gotten around to it. Somebody suggested the past couple of weeks that the lighting was a little dark, and it has been. Weird setup in here. So I turned things around today. My professional video stand is the stack of Aliso irons that I have in the shop, and I've set my laptop delicately above it, and the light is right above us, almost casting a delicate daylight glow with some extra lighting off to the side to combat those shadows. That's the professional thing. Yeah, we just added a lamp and moved stuff. So back to the By Annie patterns. I believe they are around $16, and I do have bunches of hardware, and they are coming your way super quick. I did get this Party Pop pattern from Slice of Pie Quilts and her Exploding Heart. Constance says the light is, thank you, Constance. That's what's Constance. So I have Constance's seal of approval. It worked. I'm happy. You're happy. We're all happy. Constance, you're hired. Can't pay you anything. Maybe fabric. So this is the other Slice of Pie pattern, the Exploding Heart. I've seen this all over the place. It's very easy, very dramatic. It has a lot of half square triangles and quarter square triangles, sorry, and half square. Yeah, new patterns. Emma only saw this pile a little bit and didn't yell at me, so we're good. Now these patterns, the patterns could be traveling to the quilt show. Yes, they can. These patterns I kind of got for me, but if you're interested, I can get more, or I can give you one of these ones or sell you one of these ones and buy more for myself. But they are from the Juicy Juice. I know it says Goosey Goose, everybody. It's Juicy Juice, but it's his mini patterns that you may have seen that he did in collaboration with Allison Glass. I did get a few of these. You know how I love tiny paper piecing, and this is tiny paper piecing. They make like, you can make smaller, but where did he say what size blocks these are? The cover block finishes at 4 inches. So these patterns are for 4-inch paper piece blocks, but he gives you directions up to almost 8 inches. But the patterns, the pattern piece sizes aren't any bigger. It's just the same design. It just keeps going. So this is my jam. I mean, look at these flying geese. Totally doing this one. Don't know why. Don't know what I'm putting it in yet, but yeah, this will be my relaxing after the quilt show, I'm sure. But if you were into tiny paper piecing, like I'm into tiny paper piecing, this is going to float your boat really, really good. And I'm sure I have a price here somewhere. Maybe not. Oh, this is the right piece of paper for prices, but the wrong piece of paper. See, I take a piece of paper and travel it to my desk so I can make sure everything's in here. Maybe I did put these in. There was an order I put in early, and then I put it in the system before it actually showed up. That was fun. Oh yeah, these patterns are like $8 or $9 in that range for one block, but it's for a little tiny block, and it's a paper piecing one. And you can just copy it as many times as you want for your own personal use, not to give to your friends. Gotta make that clear. So a few of the other things that I got was this quilt. Have you ever used this? This is a Quilt Builder card deck. This is a lovely gift opportunity. It is a set of 40 blocks on cards that show you how to make each block. It doesn't give you yardage. It does show you how to make the block, and then you're free to keep going with whatever you're doing. So that could be on your Christmas list. Some English paper pacing. I did too much talking last night, so the words, they aren't working right today. English paper piecing specialty paper. So this would be midweight, somewhere between printer paper and cardstock, but not as stiff as cardstock, that you could put through your printer or cut shapes on, trace and cut shapes on your own for your English paper piecing. And I show you this because I did get more of the shapes that are all cut out. They are a little wobbly because I keep hitting the table. So I got in, this is what a big package looks like of a lot of hexagons. And these are the 1 1/4. They're 1 1/4 inch on one side. So if you want to do a very big hexagon, this is 450 pieces. That would make what, like a medium-sized lappish quilt if you're making things this small. So I got a lot of these down to some really tiny. These are cheap. These are like $5 or less packages of English paper piecing templates. Have you done English paper piecing? How small have you gone? Look how tiny that is. I like tiny, but not tiny hand stitching. This tiny, maybe that's you. God love you if it is. Look at these. Aren't these great? So I have lots of those now. So if you are into English paper piecing, you're going to be super happy. And I got a couple other things. But finally, because I'm going to wrap it up here, I keep talking about the Buy Annie products and carrying more of her hardware. And some people are like, I haven't worked with her stuff before. She uses the flex foam. I haven't tried that yet, they say, and I tried it and I love it. I put it in like my recent purses. I have lots of it here. I have the sew-in. I have the fusible. It is pricey, but it's totally worth it. One of the things I have here in the shop that's already made is this little bucket on the counter. Look, Tula Pink fabric again. It just takes like a couple of 10-inch squares of fabric and a piece of foam and makes this little bucket. It's fast and it's easy. And what I did for you is the Buy Annie site does have free patterns on their site. But what they did special for quilt shops is I got some nice color copies of those patterns and permission, because copyright's important, and permission to kit these up for you. So you can make one of these, just one. And I've made up little kits for the quilt show. It's got the foam. It's got 2 pieces of fabric. This was a sewing related one. And this was, I did some Tula Pink ones, so you can even try working with her fabric. So there's some Tula Pink. They're all the same, but you can try. The hex, that's the hexy fabric, and it just goes nuts on screen. But yeah, you could make one of these little buckets, try out the foam, try working with the Tula Pink fabric. It's very graphic, but you'll see how you like it for the low price of like $5 whole bucks. But you have to get these at the quilt show. You can't stop in yet this week and get them. I'm going to make you come to the quilt show and get them. It's just how it is. If there's any leftover after the quilt show, or I can make more after the quilt show, then you can get some in the shop. And I have a couple more, but I don't know if I'm going to get all the stuff made. I know, because there's also this nice Easy Does It pattern. Again, if you just want to download a copy yourself and run with it from her site, you can do that. But if you want a little bit more hand holding and don't want to invest too much money, I'm trying very hard to get up kits finished for this with a piece of mesh and a piece of foam and 3 fat quarters for you, so you can make this project carrier. See, it's got a zipper in it. And you put your stuff in here and you can store your project in here. You can take it with you. This would be really handy. For example, if you were English paper piecing and you needed to put everything in something that was easily accessible and can sit nice and flat on your lap, and you can pin your stuff into it if needed. So those will be going to the quilt show as long as I get them done. Even got the handy instructions, and I don't know how much they are yet because I am behind. And Tanya asked again where the quilt show is, because I keep referencing the quilt show and I haven't talked about it in 20 minutes. So the quilt show is the Keswick Ridge Quilters Quilt Show, 1950s themed, rock around the clock, quilt around the clock. It is at the Burt's Corner Lions Club, 42 Route 617, Burt's Corner, New Brunswick. I will be posting lots of links between now and then, and Google Maps links. It is on Friday, September 23rd from 10 a.m. to 8, and on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4. I'm going to be reposting this like mad all over my site. You're going to get sick of it. You're going to be, thank God the quilt show is over, because I'm tired of Andrea posting about it. Don't worry about that. I'm just excited. You need to come out and see me and everybody else and all these pretty quilts that everybody has been making through the COVID times. I know. And I made this. You need to see this in person. It was quite, it was quite, the only mess ups I did was where I didn't specifically follow the directions. Other than that, it was fine. And I put a zipper in, and if you haven't put zippers in, they make it super easy. It's not hard to put this zipper in at all, and they walk you through it. And I believe she even has video walkthroughs for it already done for you. Again, byannie.com in the free pattern section, or see me at the quilt show or after the quilt show. I will show you all about these things. If you have questions, I even used my Tula Pink fabric again. See, with the sewing machines on it and the handle. So proud of myself. Good job, you. Okay, I think that's it. I have noticed I'm a little shaky today because usually the laptop here is over on my counter, but today it's on my cutting table, like I said, on a stack of irons. Very professional setup. So every time my hips hit the table, everything goes wonky. It's not you. It's not an earthquake. It's me. Yes. Oh, and today's shirt is, yes, I do have a retirement plan. I plan on quilting. I retired from tech in order to run a quilt shop, even though I'm not a retirement age. It's way off in the future. We got plans, baby. We haven't even just been getting started. I need a cup of tea. All right, it's past the time we usually stop. So I am going to roll on out and let you go. I will give you more information later on the socials. Shoot, I have a newsletter go out Friday too. Yeah, that'll have all your quilt show information. And I'm just going to talk about nothing else other than the quilt show between now and the end of Saturday. And then I'm going to sleep all day Sunday. Not going to get dressed. Not going to move. Sunday. It's totally going to be definite rest. So I'll catch you later, hopefully at the quilt show if you're local. If you're not, I'm going to be doing some videos with me and Danielle and stuff. So you'll be able to see us being dorks and fabric nerds. So, and having fun. So you can still catch us online and sort of vicariously live through us at the quilt show. Who knows? Anyway, cup of tea time. Love you lots. And I'll see you later. Okie dokie. Bye.